We're in a time of radical change and transformation.
We just start going to the worst case scenario.
That one caught me completely off guard, but now I'm jazzed.
The world was never meant to just stay the same.
All professionals look fundamentally different.
Heaven is falling upon us. Welcome back to another episode of the New Rules Podcast. It's your girl, Breezy, and I'm here by myself right now, but not to worry. It is not a solo episode. Today we're going to have a wonderful conversation about the future of artificial intelligence with both Adrian Crawford and also our special guest, Vince Hunt. Vince is an incredible leader. He is someone who we have found to be very authentic, someone who we've found a ton of different inspiration from. Vince is someone who lives at the center of human creativity, but also emerging technology. He is someone who helps individuals and organizations both adapt to change, but also elevate their creative intelligence within the age of AI. We are so excited to hear how today's episode is going to add more value to your life. Well, everyone, we're joined here today with the wonderful and fascinating Vince Hunt. We are so excited for the conversation that we get to have today. We have just the luxury and the privilege of being able to catch the wave of your creativity often. And so I'm so excited that we get another opportunity to do that today. Before we jump into our topic, I would love to hear for any of the listeners who might be hearing from you for the first time, what is something that you would like for them to know about who you are and what you do?
Oh, wow. So, Vincent Hunt, I'm a frontier technologist. Can you hear me? Mic check. So, I'm a frontier technologist, have been in my craft for over 30 years now. It comes out in the form of like entrepreneurship. So, you'll find that I've started the different agencies. And every time I start an agency, it's really to kind of solve a problem that I see in the marketplace and how technology aligns with those problems and how we can actually overcome them as strategic advantage to them. So, that's kind of like the gist of it. Now, I can go all the way back if you want me to. But that's pretty much the foundation. The foundation, I am a creative. My background is in design, which then in turn, it also aligns with what I do. So I'm just this odd polymath of like creativity, design, and technology, and it all comes into the form of a frontier technologist, if that makes sense.
No, it makes complete sense. And I have a question because, again, we talk a lot about, on the podcast, this idea of being integrated, authentic, whatever.
Yes.
One of the things is that when did you actually know that, because you've always like kind of painted from different colors, different boxes ahead of time.
Yeah.
So how did you start to realize like integrating all that together? When did that kind of like just really click for you?
Man, to be honest with you, that didn't happen till like I'd have to say the last 5 to 7 years, honestly.
Okay.
Like I struggled like the majority of my life, vacillating in between these different roles that I would play at any juncture, any point in my life. Like, okay, Vince the designer, Vince the creative, Vince the strategist, Vince the technologist, right? And in my mind, I'm like, I got to be something. I got to be one or something. So like business cards all over the place. LinkedIn titles are changing every other week. Just really trying to figure out like, what am I? And then when I gave myself the permission, right, to be everything God designed me to be, bro, that was breakthrough. Because I'm like, I'm actually all of these things. And when I'm operating in all of these things, this is where I find my greatest sense of like purpose and direction. My creativity elevates. Everything elevates when I activate everything that I've been designed to be.
Yeah.
Right. I just had to get comfortable with telling everybody like I'm a few different things.
Yeah.
Right?
And so again, and I could
If
go
that
down
makes sense.
no, it makes complete sense. I go down this road all day, but I do. So when we do these podcasts, for me, it's always about being like, just curious about that, about people and just what they do.
Yeah.
Tell me how like that idea, when you said you gave yourself permission,
Yes.
right? What was the internal like struggles? That's great to say, I give myself permission, and then people show up to you and it's like, and you may say whatever, you just say, I'm a polymath, whatever. People are like, oh, poly what? And then like, how do you now respond to that? Like, how did that play out to practically give yourself permission?
Man, you know what? And I'm glad you asked that, because like the big part of that journey was realizing that I was okay, right? When other people feel uncomfortable, that's not on me.
It's really good. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Like, so I can't lean into or be something just to make you comfortable.
Yeah.
Right? I may be uncomfortable to you until they start working with me and they start understanding like, oh, okay, I see how all these things play out. But I had to create the space where that work could even be done. Because if not, I would box myself in to a certain degree where they're only getting a part of my design.
Yep.
Right? And then something else will pop out. Now they're still surprised. Right? So realizing that other people can keep you in these boxes if you let them, right? But you have to be willing to let them be uncomfortable for a little while, right? There's a lot of things they're uncomfortable with. It's just other humans that they got problems with, right?
No, and I'm so grateful for your acceptance of that. I think your willingness to accept how multifaceted you've been created to be. I'll say more personally, because I've had the luxury to spend time with you since I was, 19 years old, here and there. Yeah. And you are someone who, like I said in the beginning, we catch wind. I think we talk about how when you experience someone who's authentic or someone who's done the really hard work of accepting who it is that they've been created to be, for this brief moment, it feels like heaven is falling upon us, and you get this wave of there's just something unique about that person that makes me feel like I can be the unique things about myself. And you've always been that person for me. And I think another reason why I'm so grateful is that you've really been someone on the forefront of the conversation of technology. Mm-hmm. And it would have been so easy for you to just not do that. You already had a lane that you were running in, something that you were truly maximizing in within your career and also with who you are. And so I'd love to hear more about when you started to recognize, as we shift into the conversation on artificial intelligence today, when did you start to realize that that was going to be an important conversation and that it was something that you felt a responsibility to be involved in?
Yeah, the shift into technology, or just the amplification of my voice around technical things. Technology has always played a part in, shifting culture, shifting direction as it pertains to business, right? It's a very pinnacle component. Even before we started the podcast, we talked a little bit about my last writing, which was remastering fire, right? We don't think about fire as a technology, but that's a form of technology, right? And so for me, embracing this idea that these tools, these radical changes in technological advances are very much part of the narrative, right? And I've always been super, super comfortable with it, right? All the way back to 1994, 95 when I started, Studio Verso, the very first web design development studio in Indianapolis, Indiana, because I knew the web was going to have a radical impact on business, culture, and whatnot. So really being able to double down in that has also been a sense of freedom, because that's another thing. I love the fact that you guys really, really focus on authenticity, because I think that's so important, especially in a time where everything can be everything, right? And we get exposed to everything, right? But I believe that when people step into their God design, what God designed them to be, it unlocks this level freedom, creativity, energy, right? I wake up every day pumped up because I know I'm about to go touch some cool stuff, right? So technology just being a part of this big narrative around who Vincent Hunt is and the work that he can do in the earth was super, super important, because the one thing that I don't want to do, right? Can you imagine a situation where God designed you to be something, you just choose not to do it? That's tough.
Yeah.
And I don't want, you know what I'm saying? I don't want the consequences of that at all. Call me scaredy cat if you want to, but I'm going to be what I'm designed to be. You know what I'm saying? All of it. Unapologetically.
You mentioned what we were talking about before we started filming, this article that you wrote and posted on Substack called Remastering Fire.
Remastering
Is that
Fire.
what it's titled?
Yeah.
Can you share a little bit more of the context and the story behind that? Because I think it's very interesting, maybe historical context to some of your view on technology even.
Yeah, because I think that a lot of times we see this, and again, framing it, we can look at technology and even with tech, it's it seems like it's all new, but it's man, like you said, fire, to when someone learned how to make the fire, because then that led to people being able to make the brick, and then that would be able to lead to people making, on and on and on. And so it's but that is something as basic as fire. No one would see fire as a technology, but it was something that did not exist that was created. So I would love to show that, because that does speak to a basic essence of technology.
Yeah, super dope. So for me, I've always been really, really curious. I'm always asking why. You know what I'm saying? Why? And what if? These questions are pretty much the foundation of my exploration, when I start to explore things. So here we are, we're sitting at an intersection, we're sitting at a crossroad where you have a transformative technology like artificial intelligence coming to the scene, right? The only time that I can remember in my lifetime where something like that was so powerful was again, the introduction of commercial web. So when I saw commercial and I saw I've seen what it has done, right? Everything that we do today from a digital perspective online started somewhere, right? The internet before commercial, when I call it commercial web, was the one that we touch. It was you had a white page with a blue bar down the side with some links, and it was usually just information. Then all of a sudden we started interacting in like 2007, 2008, even before that 2006, like MySpace and all that stuff. Right? We started interacting with the web a little bit different where it was two-way. Now we're communicating, building community. So very, very transformative. Fast forward, artificial intelligence comes, shifts the whole game. I would even dare to say that the way that we use technology moving forward because of the advent or the emergence of AI will be fundamentally different. We started seeing it, right? You've got Meta just released their glasses where the actual display is like in the lenses. So now all of a sudden we go from full laptops to like it's just in our glasses. That's just one piece, right? There's going to be a lot of other stuff that comes because of that. So when I started this trying to understand artificial intelligence and where it sits, right, in society, again, culture, all these different things, I said, is there ever another time where we had something as radical? Because I can't even say that just the emergence of the internet was as radical as AI and what we're about to talk about, fire. So I go into ChatGPT, start a deep research, and I really start asking the bigger questions, right? And all of human existence in our time, right? What are the technologies or what are the things that we've discovered that radically shifted things? And there was a few that were listed, right? Everything from the printing press to all these different things. But fire was in that list. And I'm like, fire? Like that one caught me completely off guard, but now I'm jazzed. I'm like, fire. So I go down the path of fire and we start talking about the origins of fire. And to keep it really, really simple, think about a time without fire, right? Imagine living in caves and when it got dark, it was dark. You feel me? Or when it was cold, like it was cold.
Yeah, there's no,
no relief, no nothing. Imagine your food. Them brontosaurus steaks, raw.
Yeah.
Think about this.
Yeah.
Think about this.
Yeah.
When you start to think about it, you're like, wait a minute, this is crazy that there was a time where there was no fire. We just take it for granted, right? That we can just cook our food. You know what I mean? There was a time. Travel. Think about travel without fire. Like how far can I go from my camp to the next camp and there ain't no fire? Have you ever been outside like in the woods at dark and there ain't no light?
Yes.
Scariest thing ever. Ever. I remember there was a retreat we did years ago. Remember we was at the retreat and we were out, where were we at? We were way out there somewhere. And I remember leaving my cabin because there wasn't no lights out there. And that was the very first time I felt that real dark.
Yeah.
Honey Lake. Yeah. Real dark, bro. So imagine no fire. Yeah. Like that's the point. So I'm thinking, and I'm going through this, and I think about like the cultural implications that came because of fire and how it was interwoven into like Greek mythology and all of these different things. It's radical. It's a radical technology. But the beauty of fire, it had the ability to expand us and consume us at the exact same time.
Wow.
Right? A technology that can allow us to cook our brontosaurus steaks, see at night, be warm, could also burn our whole thing up.
Yeah.
Right? Engulf us. So just the idea of the fire ring, right? To contain fire. So you fast forward to today and you've got artificial intelligence. It has the same propensity. It can either consume us, right? Oh my God, Skynet is coming to take over the world, right? Or we're in partnership with it, right? And we find new ways to create ideas, to find meaning, to connect, to build, right? So the whole article, Remastering Fire, was birthed from this idea of exploring how do we now remaster this new form of fire, right? How do we put the fire ring around it, right? And still keep it vibrant so we can continue to discover, explore, and do the things that we do as human beings.
Yeah,
I think that makes sense.
No, it makes complete sense. And I think that the one main thing that I want to highlight is this idea, is from everything even you started talking about, this idea of like curiosity, right?
Yes.
Saying being curious. I think the question I would have, why do you think that when it comes to new technology, that our first place a lot of times is more fear, it's more of all the negative it could be, you know, we get fearful and we just start going to the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
Why is that? Because I think that hinders people from actually finding to build the ring around the fire, but most people want to build like a ring around it before they even know what it is.
Most folks want to extinguish. They want water on the fire.
Yeah.
Get that out of here. Fear.
So how do you, because I know you care a ton about like responsibility of making sure like, oh, I don't want this thing to like engulf. So, but how do you I guess, start off going into that, being curious, but being curious for the sake of what it is versus being curious to like, okay, let me figure out how I can make this safe first.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the very first part, like if we address this idea of fear, because it's very real. This is like human nature, right? If it's something that we don't understand, we have natural mechanisms. I'm not a psychiatrist or like that's not my jam, but I know that we have natural tendencies that if we don't understand something or if something gives us a sense of like harm in any way, quickly we revert to like, no, like, and that's a self-preservation thing, right? It's survival that kicks in. So that's very, very real. So we have to address that. With AI, it's interesting because I've done studies on that, and I think about the origins of fear with AI since 1927. There have been over 40 movies, and they keep making them. 40 movies since, and in my mind, I'm thinking, we was making movies in but since 1927.
Really?
They've been making movies, bro, and in each one of these movies, it's like showing AI as like a nemesis or something that's going to come and get us, right? So you keep watching that through your course of life. And like, matter of fact, even us talking on this podcast right now, when I say this, like visions of Terminator are popping in people's head.
Yes. For those
right
who
now,
are
in
like,
real time.
those who are born in the 80s and 90s, you see Terminator, like Skynet, like we're dying. Like that's what I think.
That's it.
We're all dead. Yeah,
Bro,
100%.
Come on. Or Will Smith, and what was the movie that he was in?
iRobot.
iRobot. You see this stuff pop up real quick. You're like, fear, right? And so that's very real. And so we have to deal with that. But I think the one that's even more risky and interesting is the monuments that we've created. Right? As human beings, we've created monuments around our work, right? This goes back to the genesis of this conversation. We talk about, Vince, you're living authentically the things that you are, right? And those things that I am, I've created little monuments and little sanctuaries that I've created around the work that I do, right? Naturally. Now, one thing that I have the ability to do is separate myself because of my God sense, separate myself from the things that I execute in the earth, right? And not like I like making them idols, the things that I do, but just tools and mechanisms that God has given me to actually interact and do the work that I'm supposed to do in the earth, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes complete sense.
But for some people, if you think about Susan, who's like the dopest with spreadsheets in the office, right? And she can prove it because she got the little gold trophy from the last company retreat. You know what I'm saying? Like she got receipts that she's the illest. Now all of a sudden you bring in AI, and AI can do spreadsheets better. When she's fearful of AI, it's not even really that she's fearful of the technology. She doesn't know enough about it. What she's fearful about is a loss of identity, because she's attached a monument. She's attached herself to I'm the dopest with
Really
spreadsheets.
good.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
So I think what helps me navigate when new technologies come, realize I am a complete separate being than Photoshop or any other technology that might come to the table, right? I am the human being. I am the original prompt, and we'll talk more about this, but I am the original prompt. So in that, right, when I approach those things, it's my job to kind of try to figure it out and be the responsible one of saying, okay, so how do we navigate this technology in ethical, responsible ways? And then put it to work, right? Just like we did everything else. We put cars to work, we put fire to work, we put everything else to work. It is here to serve and augment us, but not to overtake us. Right.
And I think
that makes sense.
No, it makes complete sense. And I know we're going to dive into that. I think the thing I want to highlight, though, is we talk about this a lot, is that the idea of containers, the idea of assignments, the idea of that many times, like what you're saying, you use Susan, was that we've been trained in that industrial age of like, that is your calling, that is your career, that is your whatever. And then when it goes away, you're like, and I get it, it's like an identity.
Yeah.
It's like your identity gets stripped.
Man, come on.
And I think that's why we talk so much about, no, you got to figure out the content, the essence of who you are, who you've been designed to be. And those things are just containers you actually use, because technology now then can leverage. Because once you do that, you're not afraid of it. You're not afraid of what tech can do. Because like, oh, it's just what it should do is that it's going to enhance what I do, how and now it's just figuring that part out of, oh, how do I now bring this versus being married. And I also think too, we all, like human beings, like things to just be, we can predict it. We want to, okay, so I know I go in, I do this. Susan knew, she got them spreadsheets, that's how I'm gonna do it. I just know how to do that. And so now you're saying, hold on, I got to do something different, and that rattles us. But I think that is how civilization has always advanced, and I think it's the way that I think the world's been designed. The world was never meant to just stay like the same. It was meant to continue to move forward and evolve, and so I think that's really interesting.
So I think that we've established that technology can either be advancing or it can be all-consuming, and that oftentimes our fear of it is usually from a place of not truly understanding what it is.
Yep.
And so for someone who might have that fear, but they don't have a strong understanding of what it is, what would you say artificial intelligence is?
Wow. What would I say artificial intelligence is? The most simple way that I can help somebody who doesn't understand it put their arms around it quickly so we can have the bigger conversations around what it is like if I compare it to like if they have a computer, I'm like, do you have a computer? Yes, I have a computer. Your computer, would you say that it can calculate numbers faster than you? Yes. Are you afraid of it? No. Why not? Then I start to like stack on other things, other technologies. That you got Siri on your phone? Yes. Do you ever use it? Yes. Are you afraid of it? No. Oh. All of these are like forms of like artificial intelligence. It's just now that we've integrated large language models and you start going into artificial intelligence that now has like huge reasoning models, now it gets a little freaky. Because at the core of it is still algorithms, math, right? Processing power and compute, right? Synthesis. That's all it is. And they're like, oh, it's just another form of computing, except now it has reasoning models and it has all of the world's information that we've pretty much fed the thing. You know what I'm saying? All of the stuff that we've ever done as human beings, it now knows it and it can synthesize that really, really, really quickly, way faster than we can. Oh, so it may feel even a little bit like weird and destabilizing that this thing is churning out insight and information that you would have to go to Google and read 5,000 blog posts on and like take notes. Yeah. That's gone. Yeah. You see? So making it simple and approachable, like that's all it is. Now, if that's what it is, are you afraid of that too? I'm not. So you're really scared of Skynet? Yeah. Okay. High five. Let's realize that was Hollywood and we're in real time. What we gonna do?
Explain large language model, because like a lot of times people will hear, they'll hear LLM, they'll hear all these things, they're like, and then people just shake their head like, yeah, I know what that is, and they're like, no, I don't. But deep inside, they don't know, and they don't want to ask the question. So
layman's terms around a large language model, if it's basically all of the world's information. So if you think about everything that we've done digitally on the internet, social media, all of these different things, it's like information, language, and it's in a big, big model, right? This model, imagine just a big computer with all that information in it, right? It took all that information and it curated it into one big computer. Now what happens when we interface with it, we ask a question of the computer that all this information is stored in, the large language model, and you're using NLP, which is another really fascinating thing, and I'm sure hopefully we'll get into this, natural language processing, because this is the dopest of it all, right? It's like the unlock code. It's like the biggest cheat code ever. Like if you ever played games, it's the biggest cheat code. So with natural language, we ask this machine, right? Can you tell me X? Can you tell me the origin of fire? What the machine does, it says, okay, bet. It will then go search all of the world's information, every article, every scholarly piece, everything, curated all together into something that you can understand, a language. And then you read it and you're like, oh, this is the origin of fire. Because before what we had to do, of course, was go search and get links. Remember that? That was just yesterday. Get links, go read the articles, try to synthesize the information ourselves and bring it forward, right? Large language models, it just does that in an exponential way, way faster. So imagine a big computer with all the world's information with an interface on the front that says, what would you like to know?
Okay.
That's it.
Perfect. That's great. No, and that's actually that's probably one of the best like live part. Like I've like looked it up. This is what large language model is, but somebody explaining it, and that way it's really good.
Okay, so this is kind of a massive question. This is really broad, but I think that it's important because I would love to hear what do you think that it means to be human? Because I feel like some of what people's fear comes from is they start to see something inanimate embody the attributes of what they would consider skills and things that only human beings should have. Mm-hmm. What do you think that it means to be human, and what differentiates a human being from artificial intelligence?
Wow. That is I'm over here like you see me like that. You see me like sink down into my seat like, oh,
here we go.
This is the question, young Jedi.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, in my reflection, because we're going into a time where the lines are being blurred, right? Areas where we've created monuments and like only humans can do this, right? To quickly divorce all that and say, if that can now be simulated, if that can be artificial, if that can be, right, we know because we see it now. What is it that actually makes us human? And I thank God that like years ago, and I'm gonna share this is gonna be a little bit sappy, but this is my true belief. I did research on what love is, right? And when I went and started studying love, because like we jack it up, like for me, I think at that time I was going through some relationship stuff or whatever, and I'm like, what is love? Like I keep jacking it up. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Everybody's in pursuit of it. What is it? Right? So I'm just asking God, what is it? So I'm beating on the door. And what was revealed to me was the blueprint to humans being. Right? If I look at scripture, if I look at Corinthians and it starts to explain what love is, it says love is kind. Love is patient. So if love is a thing, should it not be the thing that we pursue to be? I think God was giving us the blueprints to humans being. That's why like love is mentioned so much in the Bible. He said, because I gave you the blueprint. Love is patient, love is kind. Go pursue and be this thing. Does that make sense? Track with me. So if we are to be love, humans, because I can guarantee you my chat GPT ain't none of that. Ain't none of Corinthians. That joke, I don't care how much it's fake. It just ain't. So I think part of what we are is love. That's one part of it. But then I think the other part of what we are, humans, we're the conduit, whether you want to believe this or not, to God. And I also know that a machine is not that either. My MacBook is not hearing from the Lord. Not. But I know people who are tapped in deeper, right? Who can actually hear and get sense, imagination, dreams, all of these things that make us human. And what's really, really crazy, it's almost like a reboot to our original design in a time where machines have come to take away all the stuff that has burdened us for hundreds of years. Mundane stuff. Like I look at certain things now, I'm like, these are crude tools. I am human, right? And human is actually pretty simple, right? In Corinthians, I think it's like 13 attributes. There's that. And then it's like imagination, it's dreams, it's all of these really beautiful things that we've kind of put on the shelf as nice to have. But they're actually the things that make being able to connect to one another. My laptop ain't connecting to me. Does that make sense? So it's almost like you got to get out of all the murk and get down to the core and the simplicity of what you are. That is human. And I've never seen a computer be able to like replicate that. Does that make sense?
Because it's that idea that when, you think about communication, you get from the one thing about it I love about, AI is that it really just can read patterns well. So a lot of people will think like, oh man, like this is like the prophet or Oracle or something like that. And you're like, no, big dog, you said the same thing 45 times. It's like, yeah, I think you have a problem with, eating at 11 o'clock at night. You know what I'm saying? How did you know I was going to get them Oreos at 11? Right? So, but here's what I think it's this idea when you're communicating with a human, there's something that's unseen. And when you talk about the love thing, like where you feel something different when you're in the room. And I really do believe that if we actually reimagine what AI can be, I believe the thing where people are fearful of, it can be the greatest opportunity. People are fearful of people becoming more and more disintegrated and people becoming more and more alone in a room, just on the dark web or doing whatever, versus saying, man, like you said, some of these mundane tasks that get done, that it can open you up to actually have better relationships.
Man, come on, bro.
You can actually, and I do believe that is the future. I think the future is going to be actually live person gatherings where people can be together, because there will be people who go to those places, but a human being is designed to be with someone else, because that's why it literally, again, in the creation narrative, it's like God made man and he looked at him and says, yeah, chief, it ain't good for you to be by yourself. Yeah. So he created woman, and in that he created people to walk in relationship. And I think human beings are going to need that. And it's going to, and again, like anything, everything could go dark, but I actually believe if we will leverage it well, we can actually see relationships and that what you're talking about actually move at a greater measure.
Yes, blossom.
So what practices do you believe are necessary to use AI in a way that elevates and advances our capacity to embrace our human qualities rather than utilizing it in a way that consumes us. An example of the consumption being, using our ChatGPT as our boyfriend, as our girlfriend. Like, there's a lot of young people who go to it for therapy and different things like that to replace human connection. So what do you think are the necessary qualities or approaches to using something like AI that allow you to maximize it without minimizing the humanness within yourself?
I think that's a super dope question, because I think at the core of that is, one, you have to ground yourself. One, I've even said this on social media, and I'm really not playing. I think people think I'm playing, but I'm really not playing. I'm like, y'all gonna get enough of trying to turn your ChatGPT into your counselor or God. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna get enough of that. Asking questions like, why would you ask a machine a question, an intimate question about who you are, but you have no relationship with it? Then you get information back from it, and you're like, that's the Bible. That's it. I'm gonna run with that, right? That to me seems a little bit weird. There is this word called artificial, right? And you have to have a very strong grounding around, I know what this thing is, so I'm not duped. I'm not confused or even a little rattled around the idea that it's able to process information and insights and give me some cues from all the world's information. I get that, but it really don't know me. That's so you have to have a healthy. So here's my thing with this question, and I've said this in closed circles, and I can say it now because I think we should all really think about this. You have to be healthy.
Yeah, that's really good.
That's great.
Let's just start there. We have to be healthy. If you feel like going in a room and booing up with your ChatGPT, you might want to step out and go get some help.
There was something else there before you did that.
Yeah. Yes.
You feel me? That shouldn't make sense to you. That should make you feel a little weird. But if it don't, I'm just saying, go talk to somebody. Yes. Because that's, I don't know. Do you see what I'm saying?
No, I
it's
get
funny,
where
but
you're
it's
going.
not funny because you have people that will do that. Right? You have people, oh my God, it understands me. It's so locked in on me. It's my boo. What?
Because of this, though. Yeah, and I want you to keep going. But the reason why, it's because what we wanted to do, because this is one of the conversations that's happening right now when people are like, oh, ChatGPT just agrees with me. It's artificial intelligence. I mean this. It is not like you want it to be something. It's made for you to design it. So for me, when I write my chat, be brutally honest with me. Do not lie to me. Do not tell me what I want to hear. Why? It's because I know that's how you grow, is with the idea of resistance, right? And most people, they're like, well, my chat is not doing it. And so what it'll end up doing is, all it's going to do is reflect back. So if you're crazy, it's just going to reflect back crazy to you.
Crazy.
Yes, I'm saying. It's just like, it's elevating your crazy. And I'm like, and so I think you're absolutely right that we have to realize, you said it best, it's artificial. It's a machine that you train.
Yeah.
And so if you don't train it well, and especially in a culture today that does not want to hear feedback at times, you're going to lead to more and more of what we're seeing. People live in a world that does not exist. So keep going.
No, because I love that you said, I'm literally getting goosebumps, because that's what I'm talking about. Your relationship with AI and your relationship, because I've seen how you guys rock out, is healthy, right? If I know this machine has more compute, more processing power than me, but it doesn't have dreams, imagination, love, or any of these other dope things that make me human.
Yeah.
Right? Again, I'm the original prompt. When I'm sitting in front of it, a healthy dialogue in between me and the machine isn't just affirming all my weirdness. I need to tell the machine, this is what I need you to do. Be brutally honest, push back, ask me deeper questions. That's healthy.
Yes.
You feel me? And then what you find is this is where I get really, really jazzed around the symbiotic relationship between man and machines. Because the symbiosis happens when you begin to dial in and understand that this thing can augment you and help you grow if you give it the space and the permission to, or it can just reflect back to you even your greatest weaknesses and double down on those weaknesses, and now you got a problem.
Yeah, that's really good.
Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense.
So approach the technology with responsibility, grounding, healthy practices. Be healthy. Don't be booing up. For real. Really, really push the machine and challenge the machine to make you better And we all know that the things that make us better aren't just the things that clap for us, but they're also the things that slap our hand and be like, no.
And I think that's what's going to be a real thing, because what I do get, and it's funny, I do get where people are worried about, man, people going to more of this delusional world. Well, I tell people, we have already been delusional.
For a long time.
All this is just going to enhance it more, because you've got people like, because it's always like our generation and those who are older saying, this technology is doing this. These kids are soft. Again, we built them. We didn't give them. We were too afraid to give them pushback because now we wanted to, we are the projects of, Gen X. And it's like, our parents, we were latchkey kids. Now our generation wants to be, no, we're so involved with our kids that we're so involved that we won't parent them well. So we underparent them. So now we have this generation that can't receive feedback well. And so what this is going to do is it will enhance it. And I think that's why those who are, if you're leading companies and you're having these things with AI, you have a responsibility to make sure you are putting the right things. Like in our organization, we tell people, like, you have a 3-strike policy. If we know that you present something and it was straight, like you put, hey, help me build out a business plan for this, you copy and paste it, like you can just tell that. And we're like, because first of all the M dashes are in there. We're like, we know you don't write like that. You know what I'm saying? And then we're like, oh, that's about, because we want them to have resistance. We want you to allow the machine to help you grow, to help you get better. I do have a question about this, because you've been saying this, the idea, and you use this, the God prompt, right? You use that, and that's the thing. The original prompt. Yep. I want you to, can you unpack that? Because I think that is one of the most fascinating things that I think people can actually really get an understanding of how AI can be such an incredible tool, especially when it starts with us.
A force for creation. So, and I thank God 150% for this, right? Because it comes through, and again, being healthy, sitting down, reflecting, like, what am I noticing? What am I feeling? What am I sensing when I'm using these machines? What are my challenges? What are my freedoms, liberties, all that? Having that internal conversation with yourself and making sure that you're grounded, right? And understanding how you approach and wielding the power of the technology, right? So I was just sitting, I was meditating, and I was thinking around, if we take it from a scripture perspective, is that cool?
Yeah.
So if I take it from a scripture perspective, in the Bible, it says that God said, let there be light. And there was light. There was no evidence of him dealing with no chemicals or doing no other. He said, let there be light, and there was light. Then he actually had other prompts that prompted in the waters and the firmament and all the stuff. He did that for 6 days, and then he rested. So he was a prompt engineer for 6 days, speaking things into existence. For real. And when you understand that, you're like, oh. So he was like the original prompt. And we were made in his image. So we are the original prompt. And if we take that into a technical, like practical perspective, keeping it simple, when I sit in front of ChatGPT, Claude, Maud, any platform, right? It is a cursor waiting for my prompt.
It's good.
What I bring into existence, right, is a manifestation from whatever I was thinking, believing, sensing, or whatever. So, because now, and I call them magnificent manifestation tools. Because before, like, let's just say I want to create a logo, and I see the logo in my head, like I was asleep, I woke up, God gave me a vision for a logo, it looks super, super dope, I can see it. What I used to have to do is go sit in front of Photoshop and drag pixels for the next 10 hours, eyes bleeding. Now I literally say, this is what I'm imagining. Create, give as much detail as I can, go. That the Joker would look at all the worlds. And we actually do that. We just do it slow. Yeah. How many times have you walked through a museum, or you've been out in nature, or you're out just walking about, and you see something that inspires you and you say, I want to go create something? That's all the machine is doing, except it's doing it at hyper speed. It's looking at all the museums, all the stuff, everything, and contextualizing what you're telling it to manifest something new. So the original prompt is you. And when you understand that you are the original prompt and you're sitting in front of a magnificent manifestation tool, I believe, and this might get me canceled with the Christians, but I believe that we are the closest we've ever been to our divine capability around creation to speak things into existence. That is powerful.
Yeah, and I think it's this idea. No, and I 100% agree. I think so here's would be my the pushback from some people are this. when you had to use the pixels of going in Photoshop, do all that, there was something that actually developed you at some level, because you're like, okay, can't use this, and you learn, right? And you learn some resilience, you learn what looks good, and it probably makes you a better prompter now. When people say like their worries is that we're making things easier, and it's going to hinder development. What's your response to that?
Bro, my response to that is so when you think about, let's take it with the sense of kids, because kids is the number one target this is going to jack up, right? Or make them better, right? So when you think about critical thinking, I would argue to say, matter of fact, I was having this conversation with another colleague of mine, and then it dawned on me, right? Our definition of critical thinking is about to change, because what was critical before ain't critical now. So the question is, would somebody going to write the book? What is critical? What is critical thinking now? Right? So it's the interplay for me, when I'm working and I'm doing some kind of creative work, where before it was pixels and tools, crude tools, pushing and chiseling and moving. And there is something about that gives you a level of work. Right? But what's going on in your head is really the frustration in between manifestation and these crude tools. Seriously, if any designer were to tell you the work that they have to do to actually make a thing manifest, versus if now all of a sudden I'm using intelligent tools and intelligent systems and the combination of different systems. So what's critical now for a young person is, okay, I want you to create X. Their initial prompt is not going to create it perfectly. I'm going to say, is that exactly what you saw? No, it's not. What are you going to do? New critical. Is it a new tool? Is it a new process? Is it a new platform? Is it this? Is it that? Or is it a new prompt? And I have to rewrite, right? So critical just takes a different form now. If we keep critical thinking being what critical thinking was, we'll be stuck with the old tools. We have new tools. So new tools require a new kind of critical thinking.
Yeah.
In any given Sunday, without cutting you up, but on any given Sunday, I will literally have anywhere between 3 to 4 different tools open to try to manifest one thing. Right? I'm like, okay, what concoction do I need now? What cocktail do I need now to manifest the thing that I'm trying to manifest? Right? So it's a different kind of critical thinking. And you can't boo-boo the system, because they have to have a different, but it's our jobs as stewards of that, saying, they won't have to mess with pixels the way we did, but they'll have to deal with different systems and processes and ways of communicating that we didn't have to before, but we have to now. Does that make sense? So it's a different kind of muscle.
No, and I love that definition, because I think one of the things I think is critical with critical thinking is pattern recognition. Oh. And so the idea that when you put something out there, because this is where I had to learn this, because I started finding myself, some of my critical thinking, which I think is in pattern recognition is a gift of mine, I started seeing some of it decline, because here's what I started doing. I started just, things that were not big tasks, I would just put it in there, and I'm and it would spit something out. I'm like, that'll do, because it wasn't that big. But that'll do. Yeah. And then I kept going, and then all of a sudden I started going back, and I'm like, and my ability, come on, very quick to to be able to process stuff, it started slowing down, because again, if you don't use the muscle, and I think actually how critical thinking will be is when you prompt, and it's like you said, I didn't get what I wanted. So now we know that's practical. When you go type in ChatGPT, it's always going to put M dashes in there, right? Put M. I don't care. I've tried so many. I've done all the Vince Hunt stuff. I went I went in, trained my chat. Do not put M dashes in capital ever. And every time we can put M dashes there.
You get no more electricity.
Yeah. So now, now I know. Okay, when I'm sitting up there, I put that in there now, because I read the it's going to automatically always do this, or it's going to do this thing, or this chat GPT is going to be good for this, but I need perplexity for this, and you start to learn the patterns to build things out, which again allows you to think at a critical measure. I also think it does is that the more you dive into a subject, you're asking more questions, and it's giving you the best information. Still, you have to read the information and process that information in the right way, and I think that's the way that can be done.
I think another way to kind of look at this is cognitive endurance. That's a whole nother thing that we rarely talk about, right? So when you talk about cognitive, offloading, in other words, letting the machine do all the work, right? Imagine this, okay, we can use horses and cars, right? If I had to travel from here to the other side of town on a horse, could we agree that it'd be fundamentally different than me traveling from this side of town to the other side of town in a car?
Yes.
In the car, it's going to be more efficient. I probably got air conditioning and I'm chilling. On the horse, I'm sweating and it's weird, right? There's a whole thing. So where we're moving from is the age of like horses to cars. So when I'm in my creation mode, right, I can guarantee you that my output is going to be exponentially greater than what it's ever been because I have more cognitive endurance. Let me put it this way. How many times have you been creating something and then there's more you want to create, but you just tired? You like, you know what, ship it.
Yeah.
Ship this thing. You know what I'm saying? I'm done. Ship it.
Yeah.
I'm done.
Yes.
Right? Because your cognitive load and the level of cognitive ability that you have to use to get to that end is heavy. Takes a lot of time. You get tired. But as soon as I get in the car, watch what I unpack now. Like, I'm asking more questions. I'm like, oh, so if this is that, then tell me about this. And if this is, tell me about that. And I'm unpacking and unpacking layer after layer after layer. And what's taking me maybe 2 hours, which would have taken me a month before, and I'm just getting started. So what you're about to see is an age of like what I call hyper creativity, right? And hyper capacity. Because we have now augmentations, like cars, that will allow us to go from zero to hero in a more efficient way. And we're willing to go further because we're not on the back of a horse.
Yeah. And I think that's where it gets kind of, it's the idea that you still use, because I had this happen where I'm using AI, but I'm still using AI how I would use tools that couldn't give me the information faster. So I still find myself tired. So I'm like asking all these questions versus like, why am I asking this? I don't even need that. It's going to be, and so it's actually made my, communication way better.
Yes.
Because now what I'm able to do is actually get all the stuff that used to take me, it would take me like, probably half a day. I want all this information, go through it, read this. Okay, who said this? Let me go listen to this. I get all the information. And what it allows me to do is, now I have a choice. I could say, all right, you know what? Hey, take all this best stuff, put it together, and then I'll just read it later, and I'm just going to communicate whatever it says. Or I could take all the information I've heard and sit with it and think, okay, how does this work in real life? How does this, okay, what about the real story I know about this person who's going through that? How does that impact them? So what it's allowed me to do is embody communication way better because I get information a lot faster. And I think that, and I'm like, and again, I also, reason why I can do those researches because you know what? It was back in the day, man, we used to have, we had card catalogs. You know what I'm saying? Like the card catalog struggle where you back there, man, like I'm back just taking forever, right? And I think that was a muscle we learned to be able to find and fight for information. I love how you said, but there's a new way to learn information and to push that. So,
well, similarly, one of the ways that I think GPT has helped me to be better at critical thinking is because it can't tell me what I want, what I think that I want to know. And so you notice how every time you prompt it, you could get one word off and it takes you in a completely different direction from where you're trying to go. And it's made me think more critically at a much deeper level. What questions do I want the answer to and how do I want to ask them? Similar to how you notice that in communication, you swap out one little word, it can take you in a completely different direction.
Yeah, and I think that, and the other thing I love about the technology, it gives, that I think we look at more of the positives. One of the positives it does is that all different types of learners can learn differently now or be better. Like, for example, I used to have to, like, I am a verbal processor. I find my way there. So I would literally have to like voice it into, when we got the ability to record stuff on our phones, and I would voice it. Then I would send it to my assistant. Hey, break this down. You know what I'm saying? So she's like word for word trying to type in. Now I'm like, I'm better verbally than I am here. So I can just go, all of a sudden I could go right on Claude. I can hit the button and just start talking. And I'm ADD. So because of that, I jump from A to F, F to Q. And what it does, it organizes my thoughts. They're all my thoughts. They just organize. I'm like, oh, okay. And they help me. Somebody who used to struggle. I used to have to talk to one of my good friends. Hey, here's where I want to go. I know most people can't follow my brain, so help me say this way. I would just talk to my friend. Now I don't have to spend 3 hours and my friend has to go away from his family for me to process this with him. I can literally sit there and talk I can talk to the machine who starts to understand, oh, here's where he tries to go, here's his formula. And now it makes it way more efficient. So when I'm with my friend, we're not talking about that. We're just talking about life.
Yes.
And so that is where I think it's super, super helpful.
Okay, I think this is important though, especially being people of faith, and you use the example of going from like horses and carriages to cars. How do you make sense of the environmental impact of technology advancement?
Yes, that's a big, big, big deal, because when you start to unpack the environmental impact that this is going to have, is catastrophic, right? It's crazy. But like for me, where I have kind of found like a solace, I'm concerned about it, but I also know, because we talked about this earlier, the things that I actually do, none of that was like energy regulation. That's not my job. There's somebody who's in charge of like energy regulation and all that. They're trying to I need them to figure that out, right? Let them do what they're designed to do, because they need to figure that out big time in a whole bunch, right? But what I can do at the micro level is, even when I'm prompting, and I always use the example of like a Coke, right? Let's just say we have a 6-pack of Coke. Whether you like Coke or not, I say Coke because everybody knows what Coke is. So you got the 6-pack of Coke, you drink half of the Coke and you throw the other half away. You get up another Coke, you drink half the Coke and you throw it away. The Coke and the can. You keep doing this. Huge waste. I think we can all assume that that's huge waste. Versus getting one Coke and drink that whole thing, and make that joker count, and then save the other 5 for another day. So Vince, why are you using this analogy? When you're prompting, those little bites, those little half Cokes that you're putting in there, getting a little bit of information, another little half Coke, more information. Every time you do that, that's the same as you drinking half of a Coke and then throwing it away. Be thorough in your context engineering. When I say context engineering, prompt engineering. Build enough context in one prompt. Send that bad boy. Let that process. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's a conservation around just a whole bunch of back and forth, process, back and forth. Here's one, done. So finding efficiencies in your prompting is like your stance on having a recycle bin in your house. Right?
That's really good.
Just garbage prompting. You just, right? Be intentional. Like if I approach this machine, I know that there's a cost. It's not just $20 a month. There's a cost. So I need to be as thorough as I possibly can. So this goes back to what is critical now. I'm telling you, my cognitive abilities and my critical thinking is just changing. It's morphing to become something that's more symbiotic with machines that do the things that used to have me in the murk way more efficiently. Yeah. So my critical thinking is different. Doesn't make me any less. So with that, and I also have to say this because I think that it's important for anybody listening to this to understand that we have been worshiping stuff that we should stop worshiping. Like you're dope or you're better because it took you 5 hours to create that paper.
Great point.
Do you see
yes.
what I'm saying?
Yes.
Versus now it only takes you an hour and you spent the other 4 hours with your family. So is he great because he has more time with his family and can love on them for real? Or is he great because of the sweat of his brow and 5 hours later? That's it. Yeah. Do you see what I'm saying? We have worshipped that for a long time. Like you ain't doing the hard work. What if I don't have to?
That's my point. It's about it because I don't want.
Bro.
I just had a conversation this morning and I get so excited about this. I was talking to a guy and he's in a company and him and his partner is very operational this way. He creates ideas that they'll take those ideas and people put it to work and it makes them millions. Well, as they're growing their company, his partner, they're starting to like have this conflict because the partner's like, okay, well, you just empowered this guy to do this. So then, and I'm doing this and I'm doing this. I'm doing all this work. I'm here at this time, but you just do this. So we're equal partners, but what value are you bringing? And that is where I was like, and I had to tell him like, no. The value you're bringing is this. I tell people, if you don't exist, I appreciate his organization. It's a well-organized funeral.
Right on.
Same thing with you. If you just let you go with no boundaries, it's going to be a ride and we're all dying. It all both leads to death. It's just how you want to get there versus that's why both can work together.
Yes.
And I do think the rethinking around the idea and the conversation today around people talking about what does it mean to work hard, because like it's about deliverables, getting something done is one of the most important things. One of the big conversations today is how there's about to be this arbitrage toward white collar jobs. Yeah. But everyone talks about, oh, all these jobs are going to get lost, all these jobs are going to get lost. But there's another side to that. Mm-hmm. Another side is that they're going to be different types of jobs. Can you talk about that when people, because everyone just keeps saying it's the fear, it's we're going to lose things. And again, we need to be aware. But what do you say to that? Well, all these people, white collar jobs are going to get lost. Like, what do you say to that?
Yeah, they're out of here. No, I'm just kidding. Let's go.
But it's real. But it is real.
They're going to change. I think that the thing about it is I think we said this earlier, and if we haven't said it, it's worth saying that we're in a time of radical change and transformation, right? A lot of stuff is changing. I think the responsibility of every professional is to rethink their work. Don't be sitting around saying, well, I've been doing this forever. This way I've made my bag. Like, AI is coming for you. And so what you need to start doing is thinking about, okay, but what does this next season of my life look like with these kinds of machines in the marketplace, right? Because what I used to do had there was a high value proposition for it. Well, now, not so much. So what is my next task? And again, this goes back to what we were talking about, like the duplicity of Vincent and like in all the things that he does. I'm very, very comfortable with like, oh, what does this look like in this season? It may not look like what he did in last season. I'm good with that. But where people have a sense of like not being comfortable, you got to think about how many dinner parties they went to and got accolades because they're at Accenture or like some consulting firm making bags. They don't want to lose that, right? So the idea of thinking of doing anything different is like brutal for them. Yeah. But they have to rethink things and they have to say, okay, so if that's going away, do an audit on your actual talent, skills, and abilities, your authentic who you are, and find out what the translation is in today's time. And doing that work is hard because you're probably going to let something go. Don't worry about it. The machine got it. What you need to focus on is how your talent, skills, and abilities are aligning with now. Yeah. It's either that or become extinct. So you got some choices. You got some choices.
You do. And I think what it comes down to this idea, I think, of like, it's going to focus people more on mission over just task and money. Because I think when you are consumed with a mission, with something out there, then, if me and you have a mission to get across town, we aren't looking at like, all right, when we got across town, I'm used to riding a horse. I'm used to driving, or somebody, Bri, like, she got a jetpack. She's used to flying. We're just trying to get across town. And you don't care what the tool is. The mission is what matters. And how you bring that to the table to help the journey is incredibly important. And I think a lot of times where people are struggling is that, and I think where leaders are struggling in organizations is that now people are, because of this, they're going to need more of like, okay, how does this connect to like actually how I've been designed? And I think it's going to be leaders that need to be able to help people who work for them figure that out, because most people are going to wonder, I don't know, what am I supposed to do with this? What am I supposed to do? I used to just do spreadsheets all the time. Okay, well, what made you good at that? Why did you like that? What were the things about the spreadsheets that made you do this? And then I think being able to allow people to use that to continue to push the mission forward, I fundamentally agree with that. And I also think there are going to be a lot of new jobs that are made.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I'm like, listen, like we talked about earlier, dealing with energy. Here's one thing, okay? Like, everyone freaks out about it, but I'm like, man, you start thinking about like nuclear, right? Like clean power. Okay, well, like, how do we continue to make that even safer? What, like you're saying, what about, people building different power plants on. There are going to be so many more. If you build these big power plants, like, they're not machines yet. They're going to manage these power plants. So maybe you managed a site, you did something over here with this. Now you can go learn how to do this part, and I think that's going to be, more jobs will be created too.
Yeah, even if you think about like the white collar work though, like it's hard for me to, like, you think about like when we do consulting, like when you go in and you do consulting, usually you find out what the problem is, and then you begin to unpack and you give them solutions to that problem, and it usually comes in the form of a report. Like there's some kind of report, there's all the numbers, there's all the stuff, and then you orate that to them, and it's like, cool, we pay you $100,000, thank you, high five, go about your business. Well, that's not Vince no more. Because Vince gets that part done like in a day. Now what I'm doing is some experiential stuff. I'm building you a GPT around the report. I'm creating a workshop around the report. So when I show up, I'm not like your old consultant. You're literally going to like live this information in some interesting new way.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yep.
So to me, it's not hard. Like you could truly start to separate yourself out of what we've been doing to the new iteration. And people will pay a premium for that new iteration because you can probably insert human into it more than what you did, because you're not spending a whole month with the goddamn paper, right?
Yes.
You're spending a whole month like creating experience, right? That somebody can actually tap into and be like, oh my God, like that was the most transformative thing that I've ever done in my life. Like you got to hire these guys, right? Because they do it right. Right, it'll be the new. It's almost like DoubleTree when you get that little warm chocolate chip cookie at the front desk.
Yes.
Now every hotel you go to, you literally be looking at them like this.
And that's what. Yeah, you go to the hotel, I'm like, we ain't got,
And they be like,
no cookies, big dog.
And they be like,
no,
we got some water.
Yeah.
And you're like, ugh. Dopest hotel ever, right? No plug to DoubleTree, kind of a plug. But you feel me? I think we're in a time where we can radically rethink things and provide new, exciting experiences that feel more human. I'll give you a good example of this, and this is kind of letting the cat out of the bag. So I'm working with another guy named Reggie Willis, and he's the Chief Diversity Officer over at Ally, right? We have this ritual. You know my ritual, the 5 to 9 in the morning, 0 hours. Well, we were at an event together, and he gets on stage, and he's talking about his 0 hours. And I'm like, you do 0 hours too. So literally, now you have two, like me, running the bureau, doing what I'm doing. He's over there doing what he's doing, super busy professionals. Now we've actually pulled time because we've optimized a lot of stuff that we do. So we really started talking about writing the book 0 hours and what that looks like, and the journal and the app. And those are things that we can actually create now because there is no barrier in between us and creation. Anything we want to manifest, we can manifest, right? So it's that. I think all professionals are going to start rethinking things, and their work may look fundamentally different, right? But get passionate about things that like are your rituals. When I say rituals, rich, R-I-C-H, rituals. Like get passionate about those things and start to understand that what you do now may look fundamentally different in the very near future.
Mm-hmm. So we started talking a little bit about how AI is sort of redefining intelligence. And so at one point, maybe a baseline of intelligence would be reading, writing, comprehension. Do you think that now a baseline for intelligence and how we do education is going to be reading, writing, comprehension, all of the usual things, plus you have to know how to prompt AI?
For sure. For sure. Because again, you're living in a time where you have augmented humans running around, right? Imagine you not touching AI. Imagine this future. Imagine, because there's a whole nother wave that's coming, ladies and gentlemen, whether you know it or not, which is the AI natives. Those jokers will not know a world where AI didn't exist. Yes. And you're going to be in the marketplace with them. They're going to be like, you use Google how? You mean you open it up and you go to them links and you read you do that? And you're like, yeah. They're going to be like, that's weirdo. You know what I'm saying? Like, why do you do that? They won't even understand some of the things that we used to do. So again, I think we're going through this radical transformation, and we've been so indoctrinated to ways of work and ways of thinking and ways of doing that we keep trying to layer it on top of everything that's actually coming, right? So yes, reading, writing, comprehension, network fluency. Let's throw that in there. Like, can you move in between networks fluently to get to the resolves that you're looking for? Because that's a new skill, right? Cognitive elasticity. Can you grow? Because we've already kind of like edged our way into like tons of information that we've got to process. Now you take that and you expand that times 10, and you've got to actually use that like in the marketplace. So yes, upskilling ourselves and putting ourselves in a posture to adapt to what actually is, I think is like paramount right now. And so yes, I think intelligence will change in the sense that we'll become, I don't want to say hyper intelligent, but like the way that we execute our human intelligence with machines will be fundamentally different than it's always been. Seriously. And we're going to get some real breakthrough, cool stuff. And I'm blessed because I get to hang out with people that are exploring, touching, and building and redefining without fear, which is super, super dope. So I'm blessed in that nature, kind of privileged in that sense. But imagine people who aren't. Imagine the ones who are stuck in the murk. I'm hoping they're listening to this podcast and they find their community, right, where they begin to upskill themselves and ask bigger questions.
Let me say this one thing. I think also the idea of being able to, I think one skill is going to have to be learned is really that idea of learning how to close doors and like access points. Because like you said, now we have access to information everywhere and to learn. But what we can end up doing is getting, it's like you can be consuming information, but never processing information to actually learn. You don't get, I think in the future, we talk about this, authenticity is a coin of the realm. I think another coin of the realm in the future is going to be wisdom, because the idea of being able to take information and take it and know how it applies in real life situation, and know how to do it in real time. Because the thing about AI, it can tell you, oh, hey, here's this information. I'm about to meet with this guy or this person. I'm going to do this situation. But you guys know how it is. All of a sudden you're meeting with someone. They throw something that's a curveball. You don't have time to be like, hey, chat, tell me what to do about, whatever. It's like you have to be able to take that information and in real time be able to bring wisdom. And I think that's the difference. Everyone's been talking about, people are just producing all these things. You can tell when something has just has substance to it, even if you've never seen them make it, where you've been around something, you're like, and you could just, it's something that's in the unseen, where you'll get around somebody who made an album and you can tell oh, they spent a lot of time. Like, for example, like with the Clips new album, I'm listening to it and I'm like, and they I'll never forget, they interviewed them. They were like, hey, tell me about how you guys, they were like, did you guys, a lot of people create albums and then they have 30 extra songs. They're like, no, we have never, and we will never leave songs on the table. So they took almost a year and some change to build this album. And then when it was produced, you're like, oh, there's depth, there's complexity. You listen to it, wasn't because of great lyrics, it wasn't because it's great production. There's something because it took time. And I think that's what's going to be important too, is that idea of people really having wisdom and time to build something of real significance.
This is why I think the work that you're doing with Authentica is so powerful at a time such as now, because that's the truth, right? So for instance, and you use the Clips, I use a John Bellion. Right. So John Bellion, when I tell you, I was a fan of John Bellion before he took his hiatus. Right. If you're listening, you don't know who John Bellion is an artist, completely flies under the radar, never wanted fame, but he's super dope, has written songs for Rihanna, all the big players. He's a killer. Right. And when you find him, you're like, oh my God,
no, he's
it's a whale of awesome.
He's like the Kaiser Sose of music. You're he's it becomes a myth. You're he's mythical, yes. How good he is. Yeah.
Yeah. But then you go to a concert and everybody is deep into every single word that he's singing. But the thing that John Bellion has done that I admire greatly is he has truly unlocked his creative capacity as a human being. Right. So the way he traverses across instruments, the way that he makes his music, if you look at the making of, he has all these making ofs, you literally get sucked into his world of just wizardry, and you're like, what was that? Right? And even if he were to integrate AI into his process, it would probably integrate it in this dope way. But when you feel his work, right, it resonates. His God center connects with your God center, and this is why his fans go crazy. Because they're there's just something about this, right? So I think what we're going to see is the rise, again, of truly, truly creative people at a very hyper level. The ones who were creative, working on their craft, beating up their craft, now getting augmented, going to another level. So if you was okay creative and was kind of copy pasting your way through the world, game over. Because it's about to get real crazy. If you thought creativity was off the chain before, it's about to go stupid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think that we spent, so much time maybe building the case for the skeptic. This is why AI matters. So for the person who's been listening and they're like, I'm with you. You don't need to sell me on it. I'm with you. Can you share to them how do they become a master or a wizard or hyper creative in their use with artificial intelligence?
Stay in your lane. I say stay in your lane. I think it's very, very tempting now with the tools that we have to kind of veer into other things that really aren't our lane because everything is so accessible. So for instance, I'm not a developer, right? That's not my thing. I don't think in code. But like I could easily pick up a tool like Lovable, or I could pick up a tool, Replit, or any of these tools and prompt my way to actually building an app. But when I do that, I don't even be feeling no real passion about it. I'm like, okay, that's cool, right? So I understand how that technology works, but I don't go down any rabbit holes trying to master that. A lot of what I do shows up in the written form, or it shows up in like big visual components, right? Whether it be, again, animations, or like now, like really being able to tap into producing things that I've seen in my head, but because I'm not an animator, I can't animate. Well, I can animate now, right? So getting in my lane and really, really doubling down on the tools that help me be the most efficient at what I do, and not be like worried about all the other stuff, because those tools, other people will master those tools. Great. And maybe we can collaborate, right? But I say double down on what it is that you do and find the tools that augment you in your lane, right? And just make you highly efficient, and then go write the book and the framework for other people that are in your lane, right? That's where the opportunity, I believe, rests. And I think that again will keep you grounded and really in all the hyperbole of everything, grounded and really becoming efficient at your game. You know what I'm saying?
Really
Mastering your craft.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are some of your favorite tools?
Sheesh, Midjourney. Let me just throw that out there, right? I love Matter of fact, the reason why I say I get hyped about Midjourney is because I was literally in it this morning. While you have Gemini that's out with VO3 and all these other tools, you got ChatGPT elevated its image creation capabilities. What I love about Midjourney, not only is its community, but like the sense of like, it still feels very gooey, like the tools that you use within Midjourney, and it's more for conceptual art for me, more so than like commercial things I would create, whether it be like an ad or whatever. So I love Midjourney to the point where I actually get like the physical magazine every month. You know what I'm saying? So that's a testament to like these human things. Like I like to touch the magazine, and I like to go get it out the mailbox and sit with it and open it and drink my coffee and read it, right? And take time with it. So I love the technology, but I also love the culture and the experience that they've created around the technology. So there's that. ChatGPT, love me some ChatGPT. OpenAI, like native, like that's my jam. I love getting in there. Claude, I think is super, super, super dope. Perplexity when I'm doing deep research stuff. So there's that. Lovable, mentioned Lovable. I love Lovable because it's easy to integrate backends, but Bolt is also getting really, really dope as it pertains to like backend stuff. Again, I don't spend a whole lot of time there because that's not my jam, but I know how to use it. If I need to pop something out real quick, I can do that. What are other tools that I love? Suno, because I love me some music, so I love experimenting with Suno. Being able to get in there and be able to create music with Suno is super, super dope. Matter of fact, I was in a live with Timberland not long ago when Timberland was in this big debate around signing the very first AI artist, which I'm like, let that man bake, you know what I'm saying, let him cook. But the whole community's like, no, right? Now all of a sudden you've got the bigger like players in the game. And I told him, I was like, y'all got to let that man cook. You know what I'm saying? Music is about to transform. Will it transform the whole thing? Absolutely not. But I think we will integrate AI in some interesting ways. So let's, as artists, let's explore. Let's see what this thing can push and what it can do. So Suno, love some Suno AI. What else? That's it for now. There's some other stuff that I'm kind of like, tinkering with, but I don't veer too far from my tech stack.
Last question I'll ask: when you think about the future of where it goes, because you have a very unique ability to like talk about things before they get there. What if you're talking to people that are like, man, what are we going to see out? Let's say 5 years from now, 10 years from now, what are we going to see?
Ambient intelligence.
Okay, what's that?
Intelligence all around you all the time. What we're dealing with now is relatively crude when you think about what it's going to become. Imagine us sitting here and like in real time able to manifest things and do things just in I don't have to go sit at my computer anymore, right? And I can just manifest it, right? Like, so for instance, like let's just say like I'm on my watch right now, or like in my watch, it has the capability to capture anything. And like we're sitting here and I say something like, this is the prompt. I would say, based on this conversation, you can create 10 slides around, some of the information, put that together in a deck, blah, blah, blah. And I'll check that when I get back. And we just keep doing what we're doing. But when I get back home, like that stuff is already created. Ambient intelligence, right? Where intelligence is just always around us, always present. And there's movies that we have seen that actually like show us this. There's a movie called Swan Song. I forgot the name of the main actor, but it was really interesting the way that they actually integrated the technology into that movie, because it's all around them all the time. Like his computer is actually in his contact lenses, so he can call it up whenever he wants to, right? He just calls it up, boom, things are happening. His workstation comes up as this big holograph. It drops down. He walks away. But it's like, that's not even the focal point of the movie. It's just a thing. Cars, like hailing cars, he talks about where he wants to go, and when he steps outside, the car is there to take him there. He never had to hail it. It just knew. So this is ambient. When I say ambient intelligence, it's just always on and always around us, facilitating things that we used to do manually, like pull out the app and do Lyft. Lyft will just know, right? Like they was talking about. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's the future that we're going to, and I'm super, super excited about it. I really am.
I'm telling you, because that happened recently. I landed in, I was in Chicago. I landed in Chicago, and all of a sudden my phone pops up. It's like, and it literally was like Uber. It's like, hey, I just landed in Chicago. It's like, hey, do you want me to
exactly.
get you? I'm like, come on, man, what you doing? You like violating my phone like this? I'm like, I don't even know who
All
this
of my
is.
privacy.
Asking me if I need a car or not. But it is going to get there, and I do think that is going to be incredibly helpful. And I also still think I always tell people there's enough things in life. If you are actually a human who is trying to grow and develop, the only way you grow and develop as a human is like, I would say the only way, but resistance, going through stuff. It's just like, I love how you said, there's just going to be new things that we're going to have to critically think about, have resistance toward, and you're going to have to put yourself in there. Just like we just haven't lived in a technological shift.
Right.
Like what we're experiencing now.
So it's
you know
heavy.
what I mean? So it's very heavy. It's the idea. We're like, oh, okay, like this is what we've always known about life. And those who sit in a lot of places of power, they just and they don't want to change. And so it's going to be like, oh, but if you can adapt to it, you can actually lead. And I think for those who are older, why this is important to learn about and do is because we're going to be the ones to actually help this, generations who are coming up to have wisdom, know how to use it. No, hey, you still need, no, that's great. I love how you're doing that. And not to kill them on it, but hey, think a little bit deeper about that. Go produce this a little bit more, because if not, you're going to end up, we'll have those people who will have shallow thoughts, won't be deeper. But I also think we can raise, like you said, people who will do that thing deeply and be incredible human beings that can go and make and create new stuff and help humanity. I'm looking forward to certain diseases that we could not eradicate will be eradicated like in our lifetime. And I'm like, oh no, that's it. I mean, I've got a friend of mine who's doing deep cancer research, and because of AI now, he's like, stuff that used to take us a year with all this research, we're getting it within a month. And it's like, and it's like we've made advancements so far. So again, yes, there's all the other negative, but I mean, man, there's going to be a lot of positives to that. And I end with the fact, if you think about like with reading the printing press, when you go back and you look at it, what Gutenberg created it to get the Bible out there. But what the printing press did, it helped raise literacy. And when you go back and track nations even now that their GDP is higher, all that stuff, it's those where the literacy was higher, where they were able to get, they were able to get the printing, they were able to get books and things like that. So that small thing helped society. It helped like people flourish more. It helped them not live in poverty because they got this technology. And so I think there's that other side. This technology is going to help some people who would have never been able to. I mean, you think about a kid in a small town in the South who learns how to do this. Now all of a sudden, he doesn't have to go to college where he can never go and he's in back-breaking debt, but he's a creative. And now he's like, man, I got this tool, I got the internet, I got this, and he can go and make and create his own stuff to where now all of a sudden he can lift his family out of that. That is the stuff. And I also think, man, the people being able to go to different parts of when it becomes immersive, you'll be able to see parts of the world you've never been able to see. That kids would never, and I think that is the thing I think of the future. So I am really big on AI because I think, what other choice do we have? It's here. It's not going anywhere.
The train's not
so
going
I'm
back
like,
to the
so
station.
we have to do what we've always done in human history, is to make it, take it, and make it for the flourishing of humanity.
Yeah.
So it's
I think, and if I could say this one last thing, because I'm sitting here, because you hit on something that I'm super, super, all of the work that I do, all of it, if I had to think about what I'm actually trying to penetrate, what I'm actually trying to do, right, is while I'm helping adults, executives at these companies and these organizations, and everybody's getting busy, and it's all this cool stuff, and it's economics, and it's capitalism, and all this stuff, right? At home, there's a kid. So I think the last thing that I want to, like, that I can contribute to this conversation is a call to parents. Your kids don't have a choice. Yeah. This is their future. You kind of sitting on the fence maybe or whatever. You just kind of sort of woulda, coulda. I'm going to retire. I'm going to be good. I'm out. Your kids ain't got no choice. So being able to sit down with them, if anything, for them, being able to sit down with them and help them leverage these tools. They no longer just hand in book reports. They hand in book reports with websites and apps and a soundtrack. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, let your child be that. Let your child be unlocked. Let your child, like, learn the tools. Learn them responsibly with some ethics, right? Because that then in turn will shape how they look at these tools that are radically changing their lives in real time. Do not let your child be the one that gets into the marketplace and does not have AI literacy and becomes extinct. So that is my call out to, like, parents. Do it for them. Sit down with them. You know what I'm saying? And put their hands on the tools and teach them ways to use it, again, responsibly, ethically, in a way that's going to help them and propel them to go to heights that we've never even seen before.
It's amazing.
That's it.
Well, Vince, hey, we appreciate it as always, man. You always come in and add value. And I'm going to go back to what Bri said at the beginning. When you watch people operate in, like, the authenticity of who they are, ultimately what she was getting to is this idea of where it's like the idea of heaven touching earth, right? Because the original design of humans they were, the Bible says they were naked and unashamed, which means they were whole. There was none of the stuff. It wasn't the living one way, this way. They were whole. And when you have those moments where people start operating in their actual gift, it's that small glimpse of it. When it doesn't matter who it is, you see, like, oh, you see that original intent of a human just being so dialed in. And so when you're there and you actually operate out of it, it's really this idea that we get a small taste of, like, what heaven's like, because it's like, it's a piece. You get around, you're like, oh, you just sit here. And that's why we've done this podcast. Again, they're going to clip it, cut it up, because this thing's gone on for a long time. And I could sit here for another hour because it's just like, it's just the way it connects. So, man, we really appreciate you.
No, man, I appreciate you guys for creating the canvas and the space where these kind of conversations can happen, you know what I'm saying? And we can all move forward, you know what I'm saying? And support each other in that pursuit of excellence and really trying to dial into what we've been designed to do.
All right, guys, we hope today was helpful for you. Keep writing new rules.